Welcome to the Teach Joyfully podcast, where we talk about all things elementary teaching with some mom stuff thrown in. I'm Lisa Burns, a teacher success coach, veteran elementary teacher, and mom of 5. I'll be your host. Thanks for joining me. Let me start this episode by saying I'm the queen of lists, and teacher to-do lists don't even get me started. Seriously, I really do love lists, and I live my life by them. Honestly, I don't know what I'd do without lists. I don't know how I would stay organized. It's my go-to for staying organized. Checklists, to-do lists, grocery lists, lists of goals, and so much more. I've got lists for all kinds of things, and while I might have mental lists, more often than not, mine are written down. Why? Because my cortex can only do one thing at a time, and yours is the same. It can only do one thing at a time. Multitasking is a myth. Your brain can switch tasks, but it cannot multitask. So as one of my best friends used to tell her kids, I have 2 brain cells left and one of them's busy, so make it fast. Yep, that's exactly how I feel so many days. So I write things down. But a million notes and lists don't work, and it's just too easy to lose track of it all. Sticky notes only work for me as part of a larger system. Yes, I am a sticky note queen. I love them, but they're good for short-term things as long as they're going to get transferred into a longer list. Or if it's something you're going to do very soon and you want to write yourself a note, fine. But don't plan on keeping piles and stacks of sticky notes and staying organized. It just doesn't work. Organization by sticky note reminders is never effective long-term. Trust me, I have tried that approach. I either find them everywhere but where they should be, or I find them later after I needed it. So sticky notes are fine for something short-term, but for me, long-term, sticky notes don't work. So let's talk teacher to-do lists. This time of year, the teacher to-do list can become overwhelming. Not to say it's not overwhelming all year long, but this time of year really can be the worst. There's so much to accomplish at the start of the school year, and so many extra tasks get added to your teacher plate, whether you want them or not. Add in all your personal tasks and goals, and it can be a recipe for disaster. That teacher to-do list can become a mile long. And when that happens, just looking at the list can be stressful and overwhelming. Well, not to worry. I've got a system for that. I know, you're shocked, right? Here's how to tame your teacher to-do list. First of all, you have to pare down and focus. I know this is actually one of the hardest things to do. Everything else will seem easy by comparison. Here's a lesson that took me a long time to learn, but it is so valuable, and I hope you can learn this sooner than I did. You have to do less in order to make forward progress and be at your most productive. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You want to get everything done, and you will, but you have to focus on less in order to do more. Crazy, right? Well, here's what I mean. When we try to do way too much, we get a little bit done on everything, but we don't do anything well, and we certainly don't finish everything in a reasonable amount of time. Our attention is too fractured. If we can make a list and prioritize it, choose something to focus on or a couple things to focus on, decide what is your work goal, what is your personal goal, and focus on that, you'll get so much more done. You'll get it done faster, and you can move on to the next thing, and you'll be checking things off that larger list like nobody's business. It really is the most effective system. Look at your list and decide what is most important to you. What needs to happen? And sometimes this may be not what's most important to you, but what really does have to get done first. What's urgent? Get rid of the urgent things. Then you can start working on the things that are most important to you. What can wait? Decide what can wait. Do you ever start feeling a sense of urgency about things that maybe aren't really urgent, but for some reason they feel like they need to be? I do that sometimes. I get all worked up over something that really isn't all that important in the big scheme of things, and so I focus on the wrong thing. And that is deadly. We have to be able to look through and look at the larger list and prioritize well. So figure out how to look at your list, decide what really needs to get off the list, what is urgent. Get that done first. Decide what doesn't even really need to be on the list, what is not important at all, and maybe can just be let go, if anything. And then decide what your main focus is going to be. One for work and one for your personal life. And then after the urgent stuff is done, focus on that. When those things are accomplished, then you can start to work on the next item. But if you're trying to do a million things all at once, it simply isn't going to work. So, how do you deal with that big list now that you have it? Because that can feel overwhelming too. Well, there's a couple of ways that we can do this, but the first one is to take tasks off that larger list and group them. That will shorten up that list pretty quickly if you can group the tasks. I call it batching. If you can batch them and do them as a larger group, then they get done all at once, and it's more efficient for you, but also it pares down that list faster. So you can actually pare down the list a little quicker just by batching. So here's what I mean by batching. So you would take all of the things that you need to do for school, like grading, all of the different things that you have for grading, group all of those under one item, and that will be one thing that you're going to do, and that's grading. Then all of your planning, you'll group that and do all of your planning at one time or cut it into a couple of sessions. But you'll do all of your planning together. It is most efficient to do it that way. It will take large chunks of things off of your to-do list, and you can get things done and move on from there. So group things that are like items and get those done. If you need to do some organizational tasks in your classroom, group all of the organizational tasks. You can rank them and put them into a smaller list and attack them one at a time, but you're going to do them as a group. It's most efficient to be in organizational mode and just get all of that done than it is to do a little bit here and a little bit there. And next thing you know, it just keeps growing and it's never totally done at any one point. And yes, you'll always have organizational tasks, but if you have a certain time or day or time of the month when you do that, then it's just more efficient and you don't feel like you're always working on organizational tasks. The same thing is true with grading and planning. As a teacher, we can feel like we're always grading and always planning, and that those tasks never feel like they're done. It's frustrating and it's always on our mind and it weighs on us. So what we can do is we can say, here's my day during the week that this is what I do. I do all of my grading. Maybe it's Tuesday after school. Maybe you stay a little later and get it all done. Maybe it's Tuesday and Thursday. You do half of it on Tuesday and half of it on Thursday. However it works for you. Then you pick a day and a time when you're going to work on your planning. Now for me, I like to do all my grading and all of my planning on one day. I stay very late if I have to, get it all done, and I am done for the week. Then I don't feel like I'm always grading and always planning. It doesn't pile up on me either because I have a day that I take care of it and then I can forget about it till the next week. So I don't feel like I'm always doing it and it's not weighing on me. So batching is my first tip. The next one is calendar everything. Take that long to-do list and go through it. Decide what's urgent and you're going to do it now. Decide what your focus is going to be and that's going to be next. And then put everything else on the calendar. Literally, you're going to assign everything a day and a time. It's a promise to yourself to get it done. It just isn't right now. Then you don't have to worry about forgetting about it. But you can also have the peace of mind to know that it will get done, that it has a time and a place that it's going to get done. That way you're also cognizant of all of the deadlines that you might have that are attached to any of those tasks, so you can plan them in advance. You don't have to worry that you'll miss your deadline. You'll leave yourself plenty of time to get it done, and you don't have to keep thinking about it, because I don't know about you, but all of these tasks are mental clutter for me unless it's on my calendar and I know it's going to get done. If it's not, I'm trying to hold them all in my brain. Even if they're physically on a piece of paper and I have a list, I'm constantly thinking that I'm forgetting something, and that isn't a good feeling. That's stressful. One more tip about calendars, though. Thing about calendars is it's really easy to load your calendar up, and I've been guilty of this for sure. And that is putting things back to back to back all day long. Our school day is already that way. We don't need to load our day any more than we have to. Leave some white space. Leave some room for you to take a breath in between things whenever you possibly reasonably can. That means that on anything that isn't teaching related, so you might look at your calendar and think, all right, on Tuesdays, I'm going to do all my grading. So if you're going to do all your grading on Tuesdays, you might say, well, school ends at 2:30. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes after school to go to the restroom, get my head together, and straighten up a little bit. And then at 2:50, that's when I'm going to schedule all of my grading. And that's when I'm going to start working on that. Not scheduling it at 2:30 or at 2:40 when you barely have a chance to breathe. You're giving yourself a little room in between because one, things happen that gives you a little flex time, and two, you're taking care of yourself, giving yourself a breath, giving yourself the opportunity to clean up a little bit and settle in again. So all I'm asking you to do is be realistic so you aren't just kicking items further down your calendar because it's so overloaded and you simply can't do it all. You need a minute and you're stressed out. Trust me, I've done that and it's not pretty. My next one is color coding. I use color codes on my calendar, in all of my folders for my tasks and things that I'm storing so that I can take care of them. Everything is color coded. For me, personal items are one color, so morning and evening routines, tasks towards personal goals, reminders, all of those kinds of things, those are one color. Appointments, meetings, phone calls, that's a different color on my calendar. All of my kids' activities, my kids each have their own color, or you can color all of your kids the same color so you know it's one of your kids' activities. Projects that have an end goal or due dates, all of those kinds of things, those have a different color on my calendar. Home projects are a different color than work projects. Birthdays, holidays, days to celebrate, those are another type of color, and so on. There's all kinds of things you can do with color. It really pops out. It makes it super easy to see what you have and what kind of task it is, and then you can separate them, and it's easier to group them if you need to. I talked about white space before. I just want to say those buffers on transition times are really important. Time to travel to and from meetings, prep for any meetings, prep for anything that you need to do for your class. All of those are good buffers. You need to put in time for those things. Don't just put in the event. Put in time as a buffer so that you have time to get ready for the events as well. Now that you have your big calendar set, using a daily calendar or list is really important. Every Sunday evening and each evening of the week before I go to bed, I take 5 minutes and check through my weekly calendar, and then I also update my daily calendar. As I'm planning my daily calendar each evening, I'm looking back to the larger goal I have for the week, whatever they are. I can have anywhere from 1 to 3 goals for the week, and I will decide what task I'm going to do for each of those. I need to make forward progress on everything. Now, I might adjust it and have 2 things I'm doing for one of them and 1 thing I'm doing for another, and the third goal I might deal with a different day. That's okay, but I'm always making forward progress towards those goals. However, I'm not loading my days up with long lists of tasks to do for each goal. It simply doesn't work. It might work for one day, but it's not going to work on a sustainable level. You really have to break those tasks up into manageable chunks, and that means probably 1 task per day per goal. If I have time for more than that and I'm on a roll, great, I can always add in more. But if I only have 1 task for each goal scheduled per day, I'm more likely to accomplish that, and that's encouraging. And then I'm more likely to continue that habit the next day. I'm always making progress towards my goals because I've made it sustainable. I know there's tons of planners out there. I have a teacher planner, and then I have a personal planner. My personal planner is Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. I love his system. I think it's brilliant and it has made such a difference in my life. It's certainly worth checking out. Once I have my day set up, this becomes my working list for the day. This daily calendar keeps everything in one place. No more scribbled lists to be lost, post-it notes buried in a pile or found sticking to my hair. Yes, I still use sticky notes. If I use a sticky note to jot a reminder, an idea, or something to put in my calendar later, I tuck it in the back of this planner and deal with it at the end of the day when I do my updates. And then I can get rid of the sticky notes and move on. The next way to handle those to-do lists is habits. Paying attention to your habits is the first step. What kinds of habits do you already currently have, good and bad? And let me tell you, bad habits are so easy to develop and we don't even notice we're doing them. So you could think about things like, do you blow off that 5 a.m. alarm and miss your planned workout on a regular basis? Maybe it's time for a new workout plan. What's not working for you? That's what I'm talking about. When you look at your habits and you're paying attention to your habits, first I want you to look at what isn't actually not working. If you have something that's not working, it's time for a new system. Maybe it's time to do those things at a different time of the day or a different time of the week. I know that I am not likely to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I wish I could do that regularly, but I can't, not on a regular basis. On occasion, for sure, but every day, no. I am a 5:30 a.m. girl at the earliest, and that just works for me. If my alarm rings at 5:30 a.m., I am pretty likely to get up right away. But if it's ringing at 5 a.m., I'm hitting the snooze button more often than not. It's just the way it is. I have to know who I am and remember that that doesn't work for me. Not on a regular basis. It's not sustainable for me. Maybe you are a 5 a.m. person. Great, good for you. I wish I could be, but I'm not. Do what works for you. If you work best early in the morning before your whole family gets up and you really want to get up at 5 a.m., I know people who get up at 4:30. Good for them, but that's not happening in my life. And I just have to know who I am and be honest about it. That's the way we develop good habits. If we aren't honest about who we really are, then our habits won't stick. Remember who you are first and then develop your habits around who you actually are. That doesn't mean you can't change. Some people have never gotten up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then start to try it, and the next thing they know, they love it. Great. It doesn't hurt to try new things, but if you know it hasn't worked for you, then probably you need a different system. Here's the other thing. Just because something used to work for you doesn't mean it works for you now in this season in your life. So sometimes we have to look at what used to work for us and is no longer working and try something new. Don't be too attached to something that's broken. Let it go and try something different. Trying to force ourselves to do something that's not working when it is not working day to day, over and over again, it's just frustrating and it's a lesson in failure. You're setting yourself up. We don't need any more of that. Set yourself up for success. We'll talk more about habits and creating fabulous, lasting habits that will really serve you well in another episode. So the next item is wish list. Wish lists are something that all teachers have. Wish lists, supply lists, those kinds of things that you're constantly adding to and eventually you'll take care of. If you have something that you need to keep a master list for, create a document on your computer for it. You can jot down new items on a sticky note and tuck it into your planner. And then in the evening when you do your update, or once a week when you do an update, whenever that is, then you can add them to your master list and toss the sticky note. Done. It's an easy way to keep those lists updated. It's so much easier to do that than it is to keep track of all those myriad of sticky notes floating around. So I'm going to add in one more list, and this list is for parents. If those of you that are moms and dads, and you may have students that are working from home right now, or maybe they're in school, but when they come home, they have homework and all kinds of things to do, you need a checklist for them. It's so much easier to keep track of all of the things that they need to do and help them learn to be independent if you can create a checklist for them. I'll put a sample in the show notes for you. Having a checklist has made the world of difference for my kids as they're working online. And then I don't feel like I'm constantly trying to go back and check up and see what it is that they need to do. It's all in one place on one list. They can keep track of it, and I can look at it once a day to see if in fact they got it all done. It's easy for me to take it, compare it with what they actually accomplished, and away we go. I don't have to go back and try and remember what all the deadlines were because they're already on the checklist. It's just one less thing for me to try to remember. So just a quick recap. Remember to pare down and focus on what's most important. Batch anything that you can, group them to be most efficient, calendar everything else. Make sure that you're getting it all into that calendar so that everything will get done when it needs to get done, and you don't have to keep thinking about it or keeping track of that to-do list. Color coding works for me. Give it a shot. I really think you might like it. Remember to leave some buffers, both white space, and schedule in that time you need for travel time, transition time, all of those things so that you're not rushing all day long. Give yourself a break. You deserve it. Using both a larger calendar and a daily calendar or list will keep you super efficient every single day. Don't forget to take a look at your habits, and we're not looking necessarily to create new habits. Yes, go ahead if that's something you're ready to do, but we're really looking at what habits do you have that are not working, and let's get rid of those because those are things we're just using to fool ourselves into thinking we're actually being productive. If it's not working for you, it's frustrating you. Get rid of it, find a new system. And the last is create master lists for things like wish lists and supply lists. All of those things need a master list so that you don't have a million sticky notes floating around. So that's it, my teacher friends. We're out of time and I'm out of breath. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you liked today's episode, I'd love it if you'd go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and leave a review. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. Also, you can continue the conversation online with me in my Facebook group, the Teach Joyfully Podcast Community, where elementary teachers can connect, get help, and encouragement for all kinds of education and parenting topics. You can find the show notes and links to all the resources mentioned in today's episode on my website at www.hopeineducation.com/podcast. And remember, a happy teacher is a good teacher. So until next time, teach joyfully and take care of you.